He was laughed out of rooms. He was told to quit by his own family. He lost his job, lost his house, lost people who said they'd never leave. And still, he tried again. Not once, not twice. 100 times he failed. This is not a story about luck. This is a story about the one thing luck can never replace: refusal. The refusal to stay down. If you've ever felt like giving up, stay until the end. Because what happened after his 100th failure will change how you see every no you've ever received. His name was David Mitchell, a name you won't find in history books, because men like David rarely make it into books. They make it into the quiet, private stories that people whisper to their kids at night, hoping the courage rubs off. David grew up in a small town where dreams were treated like luxuries only rich people could afford. His father worked double shifts at a factory. His mother cleaned houses. Money was never about how much. It was about if there's enough. But David had one thing that the poverty around him could never touch: an idea. A stubborn, burning idea that he could build something of his own. A business. A life. A name that meant something. He was 22 when he started. He was 34 when he finally won. 12 years. 100 failures. Let that sink in. David's first business was a small delivery service. He borrowed money from an uncle who made him promise, again and again, that he'd pay it back. 3 months in, the business collapsed. Not because David didn't work hard. He worked harder than anyone he knew. It collapsed because he didn't understand the numbers. He didn't understand pricing. He didn't understand that passion, without knowledge, burns out fast. He lost the uncle's money. He lost his uncle's trust. Failure number 1. He didn't quit. He got a job, saved for 8 months, and tried again, this time a small food stall. He believed in his recipe. His friends believed in it too. But the location was wrong, the timing was wrong, and within 2 months, the stall was gone. Failure number 2. By the time David reached his 10th failure, he was 26 years old, living back in his childhood bedroom, sleeping under the same ceiling he had stared at as a boy, dreaming of escape. His friends had settled into stable jobs. They had cars. They had wedding invitations to send out. David had folders full of failed business plans and a drawer full of rejection emails. Pause. Let this land. People started calling him the dreamer who never wakes up. Not out of hate, out of pity, which, if you've ever experienced it, hurts far more than hate ever could. Between failure number 30 and failure number 60, something inside David began to change. Not his ambition. That never left. What changed was how he failed. He started keeping a notebook. Not a business plan notebook, a failure notebook. Every time something collapsed, he wrote down exactly why. Not bad luck. Not the market was against me. The real reason. The reason that hurt to write down, because it usually pointed back at him. Failure 34. Underestimated cash flow. Ran out of money in week 6. Failure 41. Trusted a partner without a written agreement. Lost everything when he walked away. Failure 52. Build a product nobody actually needed. I loved it. Customers didn't. This notebook became the most valuable possession David owned, worth more than any bank account he'd ever have. Because inside those pages was something no business school could sell him: the pattern of his own mistakes. At failure number 58, David's father passed away. He never got to see his son succeed. At the funeral, an old family friend pulled David aside and said the words that nearly broke him. Maybe it's time to let this dream die too. David didn't respond. He went home that night, sat on the floor of his empty apartment, and for the first time in 12 years, he cried. Not from failure, from exhaustion, from the sheer weight of trying and trying and trying, with nothing to show the world but a stack of closed businesses and a growing list of people who had stopped believing. But somewhere in that same night, something shifted. He picked up his failure notebook. He read every page, from failure 1 to failure 58, and he realized something most people never allow themselves to see. He wasn't failing at the same thing over and over. He was failing at different things, which meant slowly, invisibly, he was running out of ways to fail. Each failure had removed an option. Each failure had narrowed the path. He wasn't behind. He was closer than he'd ever been. At failure number 79, David tried something different. Instead of building the business alone in secret, hoping to reveal a finished product to the world, he did something that terrified him more than any failure ever had. He showed people his idea before it was ready. He asked for brutal, honest feedback. He let strangers tell him what was wrong with something he had poured his soul into. It was humiliating. People criticized his idea in ways that stung for days. But for the first time, David wasn't just failing. He was learning in real time before the failure could cost him everything. Failure 80. Failure 85. Failure 90. Each one smaller. Each one faster. Each one cheaper. In money and in heartbreak. By failure 96, David had built a small logistics tool to help local shop owners manage deliveries. The very problem that had crushed his very first business 12 years earlier. The circle was closing. Failure 97. A bug crashed the system on launch day. Failure 98. His first 10 customers left after 1 week. Failure 99. An investor who promised funding backed out at the last minute. David sat there, staring at failure 99, and for one long moment he considered stopping. Not out of weakness, but simple human exhaustion. 12 years. 99 failures. A father who never saw him succeed. Friends who had quietly stopped asking about his business stuff. But then he opened his notebook one more time, and on the very first page, in his own handwriting from 12 years earlier, were 6 words he had written at 22 years old, back when he still believed everything would be easy. I will not be the man who quit. He closed the notebook. He got back to work. Failure number 100 taught him the smallest, simplest lesson of all. A lesson so small it almost felt unfair after everything he had been through. His pricing was wrong. Just his pricing. Nothing about his product, his idea, or his work ethic. Just a number he had gotten wrong 100 times without realizing it. He fixed it. 3 months later, that small logistics tool, the one built on the ashes of 99 failures, was being used by over 200 local shop owners in his town. 6 months later, a regional distributor asked to license his system. A year later, David Mitchell, the man his town once called the dreamer who never wakes up, was signing his first real business contract at 34 years old in the same small office where he once sat, defeated at 22. He didn't become a billionaire. He didn't end up on magazine covers, but he built something real, something that paid his mother's bills, something that let him stand at his father's grave years later and finally say the words he'd always wanted to say. I didn't let it die, Dad. I just needed 100 tries to learn how to keep it alive. Here's what nobody tells you about failure. It's not the opposite of success. It's the tuition you pay for it. David didn't fail 99 times and succeed once by accident. He succeeded because of those 99 failures. Every single one taught him something his 100th attempt couldn't have survived without. The world will tell you that failure means you're not good enough. That's a lie. Failure means you're gathering information the easy path could never give you. The only real failure is the one where you stop before your 100th try, because you'll never know if your next attempt was the on. If this story hits something in you, if there's a version of you right now sitting on failure number 20 or 50 or even 99, I want you to do 3 things before you close this video. First, comment one word below, the failure you're most afraid of right now. Just one word. Let it out. Second, subscribe to this channel because every single week we bring you real stories of people who refuse to quit when quitting made perfect sense. Third, and this is the most important one, go back to whatever you stopped working on. Just for 10 minutes today. That's it. 10 minutes. Because somewhere out there, there's a version of you, 12 years from now, looking back at this exact moment, grateful you didn't stop at failure number 1. Keep going. Your 100th try is closer than you think.